On Thanksgiving, they made me and my kids eat in the garage. She's used to leftovers, my sister scoffed. We sat in silence until a limousine stopped outside. A well-dressed woman stepped out and announced, "I need to speak to the homeowner." The shock on their faces was priceless. Melody Carter's hands shook a bit as she checked herself in the rearview mirror. God, she looked tired. Her second-hand Ford stuck out like a sore thumb next to all those shiny BMWs and Range Rovers crowding her sister's driveway. Every damn year, it was the same story, that knot in her gut getting tighter and tighter as they got closer to Diane's fancy house in that snooty Boston suburb. "Mom, do we really have to?" Leo groaned from beside her. 12 years old, and already had that look, that protective shell he'd built up since they'd become the family's charity project. "Aunt Diane always looks at us weird," Emma chimed in from the back, holding that card she'd spent hours making. 8 years old, and still thinking people would be nice if you were nice first. Poor kid had a lot to learn. "It's Thanksgiving, kiddos. Family's family." Melody forced a smile that felt like plastic on her face. "Yeah, right. Family." The door swung open before they even hit the porch steps. There stood Diane Richardson in all her glory, hair freshly highlighted, those ridiculous diamond earrings catching the light. Her smile got all pinched at the corners when she spotted them. "You're late," she said instead of hello, making a show of checking her fancy watch. "Everyone's been here for ages." Behind her, Melody could see all the hustle and bustle of a Thanksgiving that belonged in some magazine spread. Turkey smell mixing with those expensive candles Diane was always burning. Frank, her brother-in-law, barely looked up from the football game. Typical. "Sorry," Melody mumbled, though they were maybe 7 minutes past the time. Traffic was... "Just get inside before you let all the heat out," Diane cut her off, stepping back just enough to let them through. The tension inside hit like a wall. You could have cut it with one of those fancy knives Diane would use later for the turkey. Relatives floating around offering those half-hearted "hey there's" and "good to see you's" that never quite reached their eyes. Nobody asked about Melody's promotion. Nobody cared about the kids' school stuff. Emma tugged at her sleeve. "Can I give Aunt Diane my card now?" Before Melody could answer, her mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on some towel that probably cost more than Melody's work shirts. Barbara had that look in her eyes, half disappointment, half pity, the same look she'd had since Tom had split 3 years back, taking their savings and leaving them with a mountain of debt she hadn't even known about. "You could have dressed them up a little more," Barbara whispered during their stiff hug. "It's a special day." Melody bit her tongue so hard she nearly tasted blood. The kids were wearing their absolute best. Diane clapped her hands like they were all kindergartners needing direction. "Everyone, dinner's ready? Adults in the dining room? Kids in the sunroom?" Melody started guiding Leo and Emma toward where the other kids were headed, but Diane grabbed her arm. Her nails dug in a little too hard to be accidental. "Actually," she said with that fake smile that never quite reached her eyes, "we're kind of squeezed for space. Frank invited some business people last minute." Her voice dropped. "We set up a nice spot for you guys in the garage. Don't worry, it's heated." The room went quiet. Even the damn football players on TV seemed to shut up, as everyone suddenly found something fascinating to look at besides Melody's face. "The garage?" Melody repeated, sure she'd heard wrong. "It's cozy," Diane insisted. "And Emma won't have to worry about spilling anything on my new carpet." Leo's face went dark red. "Mom, let's just bail." God, Melody wanted nothing more than to grab her kids and get the hell out, but she'd made herself a promise not to let them see how much this crap hurt. She'd already spent too many nights crying in the bathroom with the shower running so they wouldn't hear her. "It's cool," she said, forcing a brightness that felt like swallowing glass. "Like camping, right?" Emma clutched her card tighter, the corners getting all crumpled in her small hand. The garage was heated, sure, but it reeked of motor oil and Frank's fishing gear that probably cost more than her monthly rent. They'd stuck a wobbly folding table between tool cabinets and golf clubs. 3 microwave dinner trays sat there, the food already going cold. No fancy plates, no crystal, no cloth napkins. She's used to leftovers anyway. Melody caught Diane saying to their cousin Teresa as they walked away, leaving the garage door cracked open a bit. Through that small gap, Melody could see into the dining room, all sparkling and perfect, crystal catching the light, fresh flowers, everyone laughing. Family photos covering the walls with Melody mysteriously absent from all the recent ones. Leo kicked at a nearby toolbox, clearly not hungry anymore. Emma just sat there. All that excitement from earlier vanished like it had never existed. Melody took a deep breath. Let's eat before it gets any colder. They ate without talking, the sounds of the real celebration filtering through, forks scraping against plastic. Nobody mentioned the card that Emma had quietly stuffed into her pocket. Halfway through their sad excuse for a dinner, Melody heard tires on gravel. Glancing through the small garage window, she spotted this sleek black limo pulling up in front of Diane's house. It was so shiny you could see the reflection of all those Christmas lights Diane had put up way too early, but just in time for her big annual party. "Who's that?" Emma asked, looking up from pushing cold potatoes around her plate. "Probably more of Frank's rich buddies," Melody said, trying not to sound bitter. But something about that car made her stop and stare. It wasn't heading to the main entrance like you'd expect. Instead, it stopped right out front, engine making, this quiet purring sound in the cold November air. Leo stood up to get a better look. Someone's getting out. A woman stepped out of the limo. Even from where they were sitting, you could tell she was somebody. She had on this perfect dark gray suit that probably cost more than what Melody made in a month. Her hair was dark with streaks of silver, pulled back in this knot that screamed confidence, not desperation to look younger. As the woman walked toward the house, Melody got this weird feeling, like she'd seen her somewhere before. There was something about how she moved, like she owned the ground she was walking on. The doorbell rang, and through the crack in the door, Melody saw Diane practically jogging to answer it, her important hostess smile plastered on her face, obviously thinking it was another fancy guest to show off to. That smile dropped when she saw who it was. "Can I help you?" Diane's voice went all high and weird. "I need to speak to the homeowner," the woman replied, in a tone that said she wasn't taking no for an answer. Curiosity getting the better of her, Melody pushed the garage door open a bit wider. Emma and Leo crowded behind her like baby ducks. Frank had joined Diane at the door by now, fidgeting with his tie like he always did when nervous. "I'm Frank Richardson. This is my house. What's this about?" The woman reached into her sleek briefcase. "My name is Eleanor Foster. I represent Carter Financial Solutions." Melody nearly choked. Carter, her maiden name. "I don't understand," Diane said, loud enough now that dinner guests were turning to watch the show. "We don't do business with—" "But you do." Eleanor cut in smooth as butter. "With the CEO specifically." She turned and looked straight at the garage, straight at Melody, with this little knowing smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The look on Diane and Frank's faces, priceless, doesn't even come close. "Melody?" Diane's voice cracked like she was 13 again. Eleanor walked toward the garage toward them with this confidence that made Melody instantly jealous. The family dinner had completely stopped, everyone staring like they were watching some reality TV drama unfold. "Ms. Carter," Eleanor said, all formal-like, holding out an envelope. "The paperwork is ready for your signature, as requested." Melody just stood there, plastic fork still in her hand, totally confused. But Eleanor gave her this tiny wink that said, "Play along." "Thanks, Eleanor," she managed, taking the envelope and trying to look like this was totally normal, standing in a garage surrounded by tools and half-eaten microwave turkey. Leo and Emma looked at each other like, "What the actual heck?" "Maybe," Eleanor suggested, not bothering to lower her voice, "we should take this inside? These matters are pretty significant to discuss in a garage." The way she said garage made it sound like the dumbest place on earth to have any kind of important conversation. Barbara appeared from the dining room, wiping cranberry sauce off her fingers. "What's happening? Melody, who is this woman?" Before Melody could even try to answer, Eleanor turned to the gawking family members with this smooth confidence. "Sorry to crash your holiday, but when the CEO of Carter Financial Solutions needs signatures on a $30 million acquisition, Schedules get jumbled. The silence that followed was so complete, you could have heard a pin drop on carpet. Even the TV seemed to hit a commercial break at the perfect moment. 30 million? Frank repeated, his voice going all weak. Eleanor nodded like they were discussing the weather forecast. Give or take. The London branch has been killing it this quarter. Melody felt like she'd stumbled into someone else's life by mistake. But seeing Diane's mouth hanging open, Frank looking like he might faint, and the whole family frozen in shock, it gave her this warm feeling she couldn't quite squash down. Emma tugged at her jacket. Mom, are you really a CEO? She absolutely is. Eleanor jumped in before Melody could speak. And one of the sharpest financial minds I've ever worked with. Something about the woman's confidence was catching. Melody found herself standing straighter, suddenly less aware of her clearance rack clothes and more conscious of the strength it had taken to rebuild her life from scratch after Tom left. This has got to be some mistake, Diane finally managed, her voice sounding strained. My sister works at Greenfield Accounting as a junior. Miss Carter owns Greenfield Accounting, Eleanor corrected, cool as ice. Along with 7 other financial institutions across the Northeast. She acquired them gradually over the past year and a half. Melody's brain was racing a mile a minute. Who was this woman? What game was she playing? But something in Eleanor's steady gaze told her to trust her, to just go with it. Frank stepped forward, his businessman instincts kicking in despite his obvious confusion. Melody, I had no idea you were involved in such ventures. We should probably talk privately. The dining room has plenty of space. Oh, now there's space? Leo muttered, just loud enough for everyone to hear. Diane's neck went all blotchy red. Barbara looked between her daughters with this confused expression, the first hint of shame starting to show on her face. Actually, Melody heard herself saying, her voice steadier than she'd thought possible, Eleanor and I have dinner plans. I just wanted to stop by and see family first. She turned to her kids. Ready to go? Emma gathered her card, hesitated, then walked over to Diane. With a seriousness that seemed way beyond her 8 years, she handed over her homemade creation. Happy Thanksgiving, Aunt Diane. The card had this carefully drawn turkey with, Family is the most special blessing, written in Emma's wobbly handwriting. Diane took it automatically, her face doing this weird thing where it couldn't decide whether to be shocked, embarrassed, or angry. Outside, the limo driver held the door open like they were celebrities or something. Eleanor guided them toward it with the ease of someone who'd been cleaning up messes for years. Wait! Frank called, suddenly all smiles as he chased after them. You can't leave yet. We haven't even had dessert. Your mother made her special pumpkin pie. The same mother who sat there saying nothing when they got sent to the garage. Maybe next time, Melody replied. As they settled into the limo man, the seats were like butter. Leo whispered, Mom, what the heck is going on? The door closed, cutting off the image of her family standing on the lawn like statues, Diane still holding Emma's card. I honestly have no clue, Melody admitted once they were alone with Eleanor. Who are you? And what's this Carter Financial whatever? Eleanor's professional mask melted into a real smile. Just your guardian angel for the day. She offered her hand properly. Eleanor Foster. I'm actually a lawyer, not some finance big shot. But why would you? Melody started. I was dropping papers off to your neighbor's doors down from your sister. I saw them sending you to the garage. Her face flashed with anger. My mom raised 4 of us by herself after my dad took off. I know that look, trying to stay strong for your kids while being treated like you don't matter. Emma leaned forward. So Mom's not rich? Eleanor laughed, real laugh. Not those fake social ones. Not in money, maybe. Leo frowned, still suspicious. But why help us? You don't even know us. Sometimes, Eleanor said, you see something wrong and just can't walk away. She turned to Melody. I've been there, the family black sheep after my divorce. 20 years later, I own my law firm, and those same relatives who look down on me now call asking for free legal advice. The limo pulled away, leaving behind Diane's perfect house with its now thoroughly wrecked Thanksgiving dinner. Where are we actually going? Melody asked, suddenly realizing they were in a stranger's car. Wherever you want. My driver can take you home. Or, Eleanor paused. The Westfield Hotel does an amazing Thanksgiving spread. My treat, no strings. Just a decent holiday meal for a family who deserves better than a garage. The kindness in her voice nearly broke through all the walls Melody had built up over the years. Leo, who'd been so quiet and angry, suddenly burst out laughing. Did you see Uncle Frank's face when she said $30 million? Despite herself, Melody started laughing too. Or Aunt Diane when she called me CEO. They look like those cartoons when their eyes bug out. Emma giggled, putting her fingers around her eyes to demonstrate. For the first time all day, maybe the first time in months, they were laughing together, all that tension draining away. The Westfield sounds great, Melody decided. She'd splurged on new shoes for the kids, but skipped lunch for 2 weeks to afford the wine Diane had suggested she bring, which now sat forgotten in that damn garage. Eleanor nodded to the driver, then turned back to them. So, tell me about yourselves. The real story. Not that performance back there. Over a Thanksgiving dinner that actually tasted like food and not frozen cardboard, Melody found herself spilling her guts, the stuff she usually kept locked away. Finding out about Tom's gambling debts, the foreclosure notice that showed up while she was still reeling from him walking out, the night shifts she took while going back to school for her accounting certification. Mom never told us things were that bad, Leo said, looking at her different now. Melody squeezed his hand. You had enough to worry about, buddy. You're rebuilding, Eleanor observed. That takes guts. Just surviving. Melody shrugged it off. No, Eleanor said firmly. Survivors just make it through. Builders create something new from the wreckage. You're already supervisor after just 2 years. That's not surviving, that's kicking ass. Emma, chocolate smeared all over her face from dessert, looked up proudly. My mom's super good at math. She helps everybody with homework, even Leo's friend Tyler when he comes over. As they finished eating, Eleanor handed Melody her business card. I meant what I said about being a guardian angel. Not just today. Call Mimi Firm helps people rebuild after financial disasters. First consultations on the house. Why are you really doing this? Melody had to ask. Eleanor's eyes got this faraway look. 15 years ago, someone did something similar for me when my ex's family shut me out completely. She told me, when you're back on your feet, don't pay me back, find someone else who needs a hand up. Just passing it forward. Something about how simple her explanation was made it impossible not to believe her. Outside, with the limo idling, Eleanor added, and when your sister and mom inevitably call tomorrow pretending today never happened, and fishing for info about your company, remember, you don't need their approval to be worth something. That night, after tucking Emma in and making sure Leo actually brushed his teeth instead of just wetting his toothbrush busted, Melody's phone blew up with texts. 5 from Diane, 3 from her mom, 2 from Frank. She silenced it without reading a single one. For years, she'd measured herself through their eyesand, always came up short. The divorced sister, the struggling single mom, the charity case they stuck in the garage while real family ate under fancy lights. Eleanor's little act had been fake, but it revealed something real. The people who truly value you don't need you to have some corner office or drive some luxury car. On her nightstand sat Eleanor's card next to the promotion letter Melody had gotten last week, the one she'd been planning to share at dinner before the whole garage thing happened. The promotion wouldn't make her rich, but it meant better health insurance for the kids and maybe, finally, getting out of their cramped apartment, baby steps towards something better. From Emma's room came the sound of her soft singing, the thing she did every night before sleep. From Leo's, the scratching of pencil on paper as he worked on his science project, determined to win that scholarship that might take some of the college burden off Melody someday. These were her real treasures, not approval from people who measured worth by bank accounts and zip codes. Melody grabbed her phone and typed a quick text to Eleanor. Thanks for reminding me what real family means. The reply came almost right away. No garage is big enough to hold your worth. Lunch next week? Your future's way brighter than they know. 1 year later, Melody sat at her own table, in their new little house, nothing fancy, but all their shosting Thanksgiving. Eleanor was there, along with work friends who'd become real friends, Leo's science teacher who'd helped him get to state finals, and Emma's art club leader. No crystal glasses or designer napkins, just mismatched plates, real laughter, and that warm feeling of actually belonging somewhere. Her phone buzzed with Diane's yearly invitation, the first since last year's train wreck, carefully worded like nothing had ever happened. Melody didn't even feel angry anymore, just this peaceful certainty as she texted back, "We've got plans. Happy Thanksgiving." Sometimes family isn't who you're related to, but who sees what you're worth even when you're sitting in a garage with a microwave dinner, trying to shield your kids from knowing that the people who should love you most have decided you don't deserve a seat at their table.